Hit some anytime goal scorers as well as safe shots on goal for some of these goalies. Give me both teams to score in the first period. That's coming in at plus 185 compared to the over 1.5 that is at minus 120. Okay, you guys ready? Let's make some freaking money. It's time for Pocket with Jo. And good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. It's time for Pocket with Jo over here on SportsGrid TV on X as well as on YouTube. We got a loaded slate out there on the ice tonight. And I tell you, if you had Colorado in regulation last night, that definitely hurt as they were able to get the overtime win, the Chicago Blackhawks. So really, it did bring it. Lisa, it's great to see you on the live show. Thank you for being here and all of your supportive comments over the last couple of weeks. It's great to start seeing new names popping up on this show, and Lisa definitely one of them. Appreciate you. So you guys, we're going to go over every single game here on deck today. We'll do the recap at the end of the show. So let's make some freaking money. Brandon Montour let me down of Seattle as well last night. The Seattle Kraken, I tell you, they won that 5-0. Brandon Montour, one shot on goal. What the heck was happening? Wasn't able to get anything done with that shot either. So you guys know that I was riding with his props. Wasn't a great day on the ice, not going to lie. So we need that big bounce back here. Let's make some freaking money. Ovi did net that goal. So Ovi is in three goals away. He's just a hattie away from getting things done. And those empty netters he missed last night, man, just going left of the net. So not great. Yeah, Lisa, awesome. Let's get back on track. Matt, good morning to you. Let's make some freaking money. And Irish King, great to see you here. Let's get this money. So we're going to kick off with the first game, the Boston Bruins versus the Montreal Canadiens. Now, you got to wonder if Boston's looking to play spoiler. This is original 6 matchup, right? And we know Montreal fighting for so much. I just don't know if the Boston Bruins have enough in their tank to even be that team that can spoil the hopes here for Montreal. I do think Boston really brings it. And if anyone's going to bring it for Boston, it's Pasternak. We've seen him in post-game interviews saying he wants to finish the season strong. So I do think Pasta comes to play in this one. Morgan Geekie has been phenomenally strong as well as of late for the Boston Bruins. So definitely 2 playmakers to look at. But I do think this is about Montreal. Montreal, where they're sitting 5th in the Atlantic, they're in the 2nd wildcard spot right now in the East with 79 points. The Senators are in front of them with 84 points. Both of these teams have played 74 games. Now, behind Montreal is the Rangers. The Rangers are fighting hard. 79 points for them as well, but they've played 75. So it's pivotal here for Montreal for their playoff hopes to get the win and pick up these points tonight. They also have the Columbus Blue Jackets fighting to get that last wild card spot as well. So Sam Montembeault expected. We're seeing Montreal off 2 scrappy games versus the Florida Panthers. The comeback win on Tuesday was unbelievable. They scored a goal with under a minute left. I believe it was like 30-something seconds left to push that game with Florida to OT and were able to get the game-winning goal in overtime to pick up those points. Looking at their schedule, it is a tough stretch for this team. They can't take any losses. They're the Flyers on Saturday and the Preds on Sunday, and then the Red Wings on Tuesday. And why I say that's tough, you're looking at a Flyers team. They've got nothing to play for. You're looking at a Predators team that has nothing to play for, and you're looking at a Red Wings team that has everything to play for, and then the Senators, the Leafs. So the schedule just gets harder. They have to pick up these wins here against teams that are eliminated. So 8th in the Atlantic for the Boston Bruins. But like I said, original 6 matchup, one that Boston has dominated. Boston winning 9 of the last 10 versus Montreal, including in December. They won in December, huge, 6-3. But you've got to remember the Bruins since that win, and with all of those 9 of the last 10 getting those wins, they've traded away their players. Brad Marchand now on Florida, another player who let me down. He didn't have a single hit in last night's game. He had 1 shot on goal. It was just, I don't know. Brad is not making the impact I expected out of him for Florida. Maybe once the playoffs come, we will see that step up by Brad Marchand on the ice for the Florida Panthers. But no Brad here for the Bruins, we have Charlie Coyle gone, right? Like Carlo is gone. There's so many playmakers that were so impactful for Boston in those prior meetings. So I think Montreal's the right way. And which way can we target Montreal and get some value? Because looking at those lines, you guys, you can't take Montreal at minus 194. We have seen movement in that line. It was minus 200. So that line is shifting downwards. That puck line, laying 1.5, coming in at plus 132. That's a bettable range, but can Montreal really beat this Boston Bruins team by 2 goals? They should be able to with how Boston is playing, but I don't trust that puck line, you guys. I also don't want to take the puck line here for the Bruins because I do think Montreal is the more desperate team, and betting on desperate teams doesn't always pay off. But I look at what they're going to bring. They know how much is on the line. And in those final couple of minutes of the game, I do think we get that extra push like we saw versus Florida. So I'm not willing to take the Bruins either at plus 1.5 at minus 162, especially. This total sitting at 5.5. And I do think we're going to see some goals in this one. I think Montreal's way of winning this is putting up 4 goals. If Montreal can put up 4 goals, I do think they get the win. So I will take their team total over 3.5 goals at plus 104. Now, could we see Montreal win this 3-1, 3-2? We could, but I think more likelihood 4-3 or 4-2 because of an empty netter. So I'm going to go with Montreal's team total over 3.5 at plus 104. They've scored 16 goals in their last 4 home games, and they won 6 of their last 7 at home. So they've been rolling with such great momentum here at home. You know, the playmakers for this team, Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki. I'm going to be kind of limited as we go down the stretch here on player props. You guys, we're going to look at a couple of players that are hitting some targets out there, like Leon Draisaitl today for the Oilers. He's looking for goal number 400 of his career. So we're going to be hitting on some milestones like that. And looking at Pasternak here, the Boston Bruins, he's on his race to 40 goals. So he wants to finish the season hitting that milestone for sure. He has 37 goals on the season, 51 assists. So you look at Pasternak, and I do think that we can see him get a couple of points on the board. I do think he gets a goal tonight. So I would look at Pasta for the goal. You're going to get good value on Pasta for that goal. He needs to step up. And then Morgan Geekie has been playing strong. But with Montreal, it is Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki. I'll parlay them for their points, but I'm going to be very cautious with some of these teams that are just so desperate with their players to record like that 2+ points. The weight and the pressure starts really piling up on these players out there on the ice. So Kraken in regulation, Joe. Congratulations to your Kraken, looking for the shutout win 5-0 over the Vancouver Canucks, who are another team desperate to make the playoffs. But it looks like the St. Louis Blues are really extinguishing any hope that Calgary and the Vancouver Canucks have, because St. Louis continues to win. We're going to talk about them. They're looking for their 11th straight win tonight versus a team that they took their last loss against. So we'll get into that game here shortly. But Joe, again, congratulations to your Kraken. Let's look at the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're taking on the Ottawa Senators. Both of these teams battling it out for their playoff spot in different ways. So we've got the Bruins. The Tampa Bay Lightning are a minus 146 favorite here on the road going into Ottawa. Ottawa's a plus 122 underdog, and you know right away that has my eyes on them there. Now we're going to see if Brady Tkachuk is hitting the ice tonight, still listed day to day. I'm hoping he hits the ice because in that last game, they so needed him versus the Buffalo Sabres, taking the L there. And they can't afford these losses in that wild card race. So looking at the total, it's 5.5, minus 124 to the over. And I'm expecting goals out of both of these teams. I know we can see that defensive lockdown in some of these games versus Ottawa. And I know Vasilevsky has been strong between the pipes, but you're looking under Vasilevsky's numbers versus the Ottawa Senators, and I don't trust him here, you guys. He's gone 12-7, so yeah, positive record for his wins in 19 games, but he has a save percentage under 900. It's a 895 save percentage, and he also has a 3.06 goals against average. So looking at Ottawa, looking at their playmakers, I expect them to be able to hit Andre Vasilevsky. Now, Allmark on the other side actually has solid numbers versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. You're looking at him, he's gone 12-8-1. So while he hasn't recorded as many wins as losses in those 14 games, you are seeing that save percentage above 900. He's gone 905 save percentage with a 2.94 goals against average. So his numbers are solid out there. Going to need the support, though, from the defense of the Ottawa Senators. They can't allow him to be peppered out here. We know the Tampa Bay Lightning's offense can be straight fire when they come out firing. They've won their last 4. They beat the Isles on Tuesday 4-1. And we're seeing the Senators desperate to get back in that win column. They've lost their last 2. Tuesday, lost to the Sabres 5-2 in a game that they couldn't afford to lose out here. So they're sitting in the first wildcard spot in the East right now. They have 84 points in 74 games. So looking at that East wildcard spot and where we're sitting with it, you guys, as I just pull up the numbers here to make sure I quote them correctly to you. So in the East, we do have the Ottawa Senators, like I said, in that first wildcard spot. 84 points. Below them sitting there is Montreal with 79. So they have 5 points up on Montreal. Both teams have played 74 games. When we look at the teams challenging them for those wildcard spots, because we get the first and second wildcard spot there, we have the New York Rangers. They have 79 points with Montreal. So that's how tight Montreal has to play their games. They have to get these wins. Otherwise, the New York Rangers are going to take their spot. You know, Gary Bettman wants the Rangers in and not Montreal. So Montreal has to play smart hockey out there, not take those penalties and not allow the refs to decide who gets the wild card spot in that second spot. But we can see Montreal surpass Ottawa if we see something funky going on, because with 82 games in the regular season, both of these teams still have 6 games or 8 games in hand, right? So we're going to see movement in these wild card spots. And the last thing Ottawa or Montreal wants to do is see the Rangers or the Columbus Blue Jackets, who have. So the Rangers have played 1 more game, but the Columbus Blue Jackets have 2 games in hand over the Rangers, 1 game in hand over the Ottawa Senators of Montreal. And if you don't understand what I mean by in hand, it means they've played 1 less. So they do have the ability to pick up 2 extra points and, you know, sit in the same sort of position as both of Montreal and the New York Rangers, but a game in hand over the Rangers. So it's going to be an interesting battle. We're still not seeing the Red Wings eliminated. No one in the East going into tonight's games are officially eliminated from playoff contention. But if you think the Boston Bruins are going to get there, take an absolute freaking miracle. They got 69 points in 75 games. They would need everyone else to lose and they would need to win. And I just don't see it happening. So we've got a lot of teams that are going to be eliminated in the next couple of games here from playoff contention in the East. And things are getting pretty clear out in the West. You know, the Seattle Kraken, the Nashville Predators, Chicago Blackhawks, and San Jose Sharks have been eliminated. Utah's in a do or die tonight. Basically, they are sitting here with 80 points in 75 games. They are just they're just a game basically away from being eliminated. Calgary and Vancouver, the same thing with the St. Louis Blues. I do think the Eastern Conference wildcard spot is going to come down to the final couple of games for these teams. It's going to be an absolute battle. And I can't remember if it was the Eastern Conference or Western Conference last year where we had that tight battle. If you guys remember which conference it was, it basically came down to the last game or 2, didn't it, for the Washington Capitals? It was crazy. Or was it the Winnipeg Jets? My mind just can't wrap my head around what it was last season, because we've been talking so much this season that it just feels like a lifetime ago. But it did come down to that tight battle last season. It's going to again this season. But before I squirrel anymore, let's get back to the game that we were talking about and the importance of the Ottawa Senators getting the win. With the importance of the Ottawa Senators getting the win, I am going to look at their team total here. I wanted to take the Tampa Bay Lightning's team total under 3.5 because I do think Ullmark has that strong performance. I do think the defense knows they have to give him the support. But the under 3.5 for the Tampa Bay Lightning, it could be a parlay piece if you want to throw it in, but too risky still at minus 166 under 3.5. Ullmark has allowed the Lightning no more than 3 goals in the last 9 meetings. So under 3.5 makes sense because the last 9 meetings, we haven't seen them be able to score more than 3 goals. They've hit 3 in a couple of those, so made it really tight, but they haven't been able to go over 3.5 goals. So the under makes sense, but it's too juiced. When we look at Ullmark here, I think he's going to have that strong performance. And then moving on to the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Ottawa Senators team total. The Senators team total is 2.5. I like it to the over. Again, the books have to make you pay that juice. The over 2.5 goals here for the Ottawa Senators, minus 142. It's kind of like the best thing I can find on the slate for this game. I do think the Sens will be able to get 3 goals on the board. Andre Vasilevskiy has allowed 1 goal in that last meeting versus Ottawa. But in the 4 games prior, he's allowed 3 or more goals. So I do think the Sens can hit him. Drake Batherson has been really strong versus the Lightning as well. He scored at least 1 goal in 3 the last 4 versus the Lightning. So you could look at something like the Senators team total over 2.5 parlayed with Drake Batherson for the point tonight, getting you some plus money there. So play around with this one. We're going to see what's happening with Brady Tkachuk. If Brady Tkachuk, okay, so you're seeing Brady Tkachuk listed as out. I was seeing him listed as day-to-day. So with Brady Tkachuk out, I still think the Ottawa Senators can get 3 goals on the board. But you will, it's going to be a battle out here. I think it's a higher scoring game. So if you just want to look at this game to go to the over, I know right now we should see defenses starting to really lock down. Really hard here with the numbers Andrei Vasilevskiy has had versus the Ottawa Senators for me to think this one's going to be that lower scoring game unless we don't see Tampa be able to score on Allmark. And that's how I think it could be that lower scoring game. So I want to take the Sens team total over 2.5 and leave the full game total out of it. Good morning, Kev. Happy Thursday. I can't believe it's Thursday, April 3rd, you guys. Time is flying before you know it's going to be Easter. And we'll be in playoff season. So let's look at the Colorado Avalanche. They are taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, Colorado, the juice keeps ticking up on them. They're a minus 146 favorite this morning on that money line versus Columbus. Columbus is so gritty at home. They're able to battle it out. They have made their home fans so happy. If you've been a Columbus Blue Jacket season ticket holder, you have seen your team win at home 58% of the time. So definitely fun times to be in Columbus. This is plus 122 for the Columbus Blue Jackets at home. Home dog, total of 6.5. 6.5, minus 118 to the under, minus 104 to the over. Looking at Columbus in the playoff picture, you guys, they are going to need a lot to happen to make the playoffs. They're going to need Ottawa and Montreal to take some losses. They're going to need the Rangers to take some losses for them to sneak in to a playoff spot. They are sitting with 77 points, so 2 points behind the Montreal Canadiens. They are 5 points behind the Ottawa Senators, but they have a game in hand over both of them. So look for Columbus to really bring it tonight. They are not out of that wild card race in the Eastern Conference. And I do think with how this team plays at home, they have every ability to get there. Now, Elvis has to play strong between the pipes tonight to get this win over Colorado. The last meeting for Elvis versus the Colorado Avalanche, he got just shellacked out there on the ice, allowing 6 goals. But then you start to look at how many shots his defense allowed him to take in that, and that was 50 shots on his net. So look for Columbus to still allow those shots, but I don't think Colorado puts up that many shots. You got to remember this is the second night of back-to-back for the Colorado Avalanche. I was nervous with them last night going into that game versus Chicago Blackhawks. You guys, at the end of the day, I didn't end up taking any bets in that game because it made sense that Colorado would win that 4-1, 4-2, right? But like I expected, Chicago came to play that upset role. And Colorado, with the look-ahead situation, with the first night of a back-to-back, with a Columbus team that can score at home, then with the Blues on deck, then with Vegas on deck, that was the one game that you look at those scheduling spots and you go, the dog really has a chance. They are really barking. They're going to step up versus a playoff team. Third in the Central here for the Colorado Avalanche with 96 points in 76 games. So they're battling it out in the Central, trying to get that second spot. I just don't see it happening. And I do think in the second night of a back-to-back, we're going to see those goals coming in this game. They saved Blackwood for tonight, so that is a good thing. But between both of these teams, you look at Columbus's ability to score at home, and they've been just fantastic, giving their home crowd such a show. They're off the win versus the Predators, 8-4. This is 2 games on the road are loading for them for their schedule. They face the Leafs on Saturday and the Sens on Sunday. So they will be pushing, right? Because those are hard games out there on the road, especially both the Leafs and the Senators. The Senators, especially for that wild card spot, because they're battling it out for those wild card seats. So we did see the previous matchup between these two teams. Columbus actually got the win back in October. It was 6-4 win by the Columbus Blue Jackets. They've won, like I said, 58.8% of their home games this season. So really impressing their home crowd. I'm going to look for Columbus to score goals. I'm not going to step in front of Colorado via the way of taking them on the like Columbus on the money line. I think it's worth a shot on Columbus on that money line at plus 122, but I do like their team total. But the problem is the books do too. Over 2.5 goals at minus 160. You can alt it to over 3.5 goals for some great plus money. I do think we look at that first period, expecting both of these teams to come out nice, hot, and strong to start. I'll take the over 1.5 for half a unit, minus 140. I believe it's bumped up to minus 146. I got it minus 140. At minus 146, half a unit, minus 146. It's just a little bit out of my tolerance, but I do like both teams to score. Both teams to score in the first period coming in at plus 146. So we got a 100-point swing. And I do think both teams will be able to get those goals on the board in the first. So the Avs have allowed the Columbus Blue Jackets to score 4 more goals in the last 2 meetings. So Columbus does score on Colorado. So it's going to be interesting to see how Mackenzie Blackwood comes out. We've seen the Colorado Avalanche as favorites. In those last 2 meetings, they failed to cover, of course, with Columbus getting the win, and they failed to cover the puck line in the last 4 versus the Columbus Blue Jackets. So I'm looking for a strong performance out of Columbus. Not sure if they get the win, but I do think they get those goals on the board. So alting their team total to over 3.5. 5-4 win for Colorado wouldn't be out of the question, or a 4-3 win for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Either way, they go over the alt of 3.5 goals. And I do think, I hate stepping in front of Colorado, but I do think Columbus is just fighting for so much. We could see them win on that money line. So the both teams to score first period. Okay, let's move on to the Nashville Predators. You guys, with the Nashville Predators taking on the Dallas Stars. All odds are provided over on FanDuel. So the Nashville Predators coming in at plus 240, minus 300 here for the Dallas Stars, and a total of 6.5. The 6.5 is minus 128 to the under, plus 104 to the over. And you got to wonder, how many goals are we going to see out of both of these teams? Now you have the Dallas Stars off the West Coast trip, where they dominated. They won all 4 of that West Coast trip. They've now won 6 in a row. They won on Monday versus the Seattle Kraken. They had 2 games versus the Kraken, don't forget. They're able to get that win on Monday 3-1. So they're returning home. They face Calgary. They face the Oilers. Calgary and the Oilers, and then Kraken 4-2. And they've just been playing such dominant hockey. Now, the problem with the Dallas Stars today is, who wants to lay this kind of price off a team off that West Coast trip? So they're coming in at minus 300, a $3 favorite. We got plus 240 again for the Nashville Predators. So I've got to find a different way to bet this. We've seen the Predators free falling right now. They've lost their last 4. Tuesday's loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets, 8-4. Game 3 of 3 on the road for them. They are at home on Sunday facing the Montreal Canadiens. And of course, this team has been eliminated from playoff contention, sitting 7th in the Central. I'm looking for them. We know the first period for the Predators is their best chance of getting up in these games. Now, you don't have to take them to win the first period to make a bet on the Predators. You can just take the first period goal here. If we see Dallas come out a little bit slower defensively in this matchup to start, we see the Predators score in the first period, which I do think is their best chance of getting a goal on the board. They're coming in at minus 110. So minus 110 for a first period goal. It doesn't matter who wins the first period. It doesn't matter what Dallas does, as long as we can see the Preds score 1. That's a minus 110 bet. Now, you could look at their team total if you think Dallas is going to be tired off of that road trip, looking ahead, underestimate what they're going to see out of the Nashville Predators, especially when they're sitting. They're sitting second in the Central with 102 points in 74 games. They are 4 points behind the Jets, but have that game in hand. So I do think you're going to see the Stars be able to capitalize and still get the win over the Predators. So it's a really hard game to jump into. They've won their last 10 as a home favorite. I just don't know if they cover that puck line in this matchup. So trying to find another way to bet it is just looking at the Preds to score in the first. If you just want to take the Dallas Stars on the puck line, I don't blame you. I don't want to do it, though. Minus 1.5 at minus 118. These eliminated teams looking to play spoiler, especially within their division. So battle the Central here. It's just so dangerous that I'm not willing to take it. I do have a player that I'm looking at here, though, for the Nashville Predators that has had that ability to get those assists on the board versus the Dallas Stars, and that's Ryan O'Reilly. He's recorded 1 assist in 9 of the last 11 road games. So in Dallas versus the Stars, I do think that assist is in play at plus 190, but you can actually just look at his point. And that's why I'm looking at the Preds, because everything is so highly juiced on the Dallas Stars. Like, you could take Wyatt Johnson, you could take Rupe Hintz, you could look at them for their points and for their goals tonight, but you're not getting the value you're going to get if you look at someone here for Nashville. And I know it's going to be hard, but I do think they sleep a little bit on the Preds to start. So Ryan O'Reilly for the point alone tonight's plus 102. I like his point better than his assist, but I do think it comes via assist. So if you want a chance on the assist, it's coming in at plus 190, but I don't want to be sitting here seeing Ryan O'Reilly get the goal and not the assist and us not be able to cash. So that's why I'll go with the point at plus 102. There's just not as much drawing me to the assist at plus 190. If that was like a plus 250 for the assist and plus 102 for the point, I might then jump on the assist, but I like the point at plus 102. So it's going to be an interesting one here. The Dallas Stars should win. If the Predators go out first and then we see a little bit of movement in the line, we're not going to see too much, you guys. The Dallas Stars will not go to a money line price that we're going to like unless we see the Preds go up by 2, maybe even 3 goals. The books know it. They've already made Dallas a $3 favorite. So I don't think we're going to have a live betting situation where we can get Dallas plus 1.5 at good value. But if we ever see something like that, or the Dallas Stars to come back and get the win, I will be jumping on that. So it's going to be an interesting one, but let's jump in. Yeah, you're going to take the Stars on the puck line, and I don't blame you at all. Rob going with the Columbus Blue Jackets. You got to look at Columbus here at home. And Mo, good morning to you as well. Ovi will get the record soon. Absolutely, Patrick, he is. So we're going to look at Ovi at the end of the show. We can't not look at what he's going to do. 3 goals away. I can't wait to see how the odds have shifted, you guys. I haven't looked at Ovi's shift for who he's going to win against, and I can't wait to go over that with you guys. We'll do it at the end of the show. We're going to go through the rest of the games before we talk anything about Ovechkin. The Pittsburgh Penguins versus the St. Louis Blues. I mentioned this one at the top of this show. The St. Louis Blues have been so freaking hot, right? Winning their last 10. They're now a minus 225 favorite versus Sid the Kid and the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are rolling in here at plus 180. We got a total of 5.5, minus 124 to the over 5.5. Odds are shifting quickly in a lot of these games, you guys. I am seeing some movement. So as we speak, the line had locked up and just opened back up. So plus 102 to the under 5.5. Looking at this matchup, it should be Tristan Jarry versus Jordan Binnington for the Blues. We've seen the Pittsburgh Penguins. They won that last game. It was nuts. Versus the Ottawa Senators, we had a 1-0 win by the Pittsburgh Penguins in OT. I still can't believe how that game played out. That defensive battle, both of those teams were able to play. How hot goaltending came out on both sides. But I don't think we will see the Pittsburgh Penguins be able to contain the St. Louis Blues like they did the Ottawa Senators. To be able to do that 2 games in a row is a lot to ask out of this team who hasn't been defensive and goaltending minded all season. Their way of winning has been by putting these goals on the board. And you look at Sid the Kid and you look at Sidney Crosby, he's 3 goals away from 30 on the season. You know he's chasing to hit those milestones before the season's out. These players are going to want to start padding their stats as well. Going to be really hard against a team that is fighting for a playoff spot here in the St. Louis Blues. But I do think if anyone's scoring, it is Sidney Crosby. He was able to get the overtime winner versus the Ottawa Senators. His anytime goal tonight is plus 200. But then we're also looking at Raquel and Rust. Now, Rust coming in here has 55 points, 26 goals, and 29 assists. His anytime goal is plus 210. His point tonight's minus 154. So I do think you can look at Rust, Raquel, or Crosby and parlay 2 of them together for their points, because you look at Rust, he scored a goal in 3 of the last 4 games versus the Blues. So he's the one player that has that recency versus a team. And I love always looking at those players when I'm looking at the points, because if he's normally scoring the goals, maybe he's just on the line that gets the assist tonight. So looking at him for his point, makes sense at minus 154, but you just have to play. You got to get a dancing partner because it's too juicy on its own. But looking at this matchup and where I'm going to put my money for a side, we have the last time the St. Louis Blues lost a game was versus this Pittsburgh Penguins team. 10 games ago, so actually 11 games ago, because they've won 10 since. They played on March 13th. They lost. The Penguins won 5-3. It's unbelievable to think March 13th was the last time the St. Louis Blues lost a game. They are trying to control their fate in the wild cards. So 5th in the Central right now, 89 points in 76 games. So they are fighting for that first spot in the wild card. Calgary and Vancouver are looking to jump into one of those wild card spots. And the Blues sitting here, they are tied with the Minnesota Wild for points at 89, 76 games played for both. So the Blues looking to get that first wild card spot over the Minnesota Wild, and it would be great to see them be able to do so. I believe Minnesota does hold the head-to-head record here. So if they finish both with the 89 points, we are going to see Minnesota in that first spot, St. Louis in that second. But I do think St. Louis has that fighting chance of taking that first wild card spot. And then we're going to have to start looking as with the matchups ahead of them, is that where they're going to want to be? But they can't think about that right now because Calgary's there with 82 points in 74 games and Vancouver 75 points with 81. So I think Vancouver's slowly falling out of the mix. Can Calgary make that push against the St. Louis Blues team? You know, I think it's St. Louis. If you join me on Game Time Decisions, Joe Ranieri and I jumped on the St. Louis Blues probably 2 weeks ago. And I'm sure we talked about it here on Pocket with Joe for the St. Louis Blues to make the playoffs. At that point, we were getting them at plus 102. And at that point, you know, there was value right now for the St. Louis Blues to make the playoffs. We are going to look because I bet you we're not getting that value at all. So the St. Louis Blues to make the playoffs is minus 1,800, you guys. So hopefully some of you jumped on them at plus 102 the other week. Now, if you think Calgary is going to take that spot from the St. Louis Blues, or if the Wild are just going to completely fall off, lose the rest of their games, Calgary some way able to sneak in with the Blues. They're coming in at plus 560. I don't see it. I think Kaprizov is out on this road trip with the Minnesota Wild, and I think the Wild and the Blues are the teams to make the playoffs in the Western Conference that are battling it out. But you can't even bet them now. It's unbettable. Minus 3,000 for the Wild, minus 1,800, like I said, for the St. Louis Blues. You can still look at the Eastern Conference and who's going to make it. The Montreal Canadiens are plus 122. The New York Rangers at plus 190. The Columbus Blue Jackets at plus 340. I would love to see Columbus be able to do it. We know they are just playing with so much heart for Johnny Gaudreau this season. It would be incredible to see Columbus make it. At plus 340, is it worth a shot? Well, plus 1,700, you're getting the Red Wings, who have just as good as hopes to make the playoffs as Columbus. So I don't know, you guys. I do think Montreal probably sneaks it in. They're such a good team, but I think Gary Bettman wants the Rangers. So do what you want with that. I'm not sure where I'm going to go. Maybe we will talk more about that after tonight's games play out, but we might lose some value. Okay, so I'm going to look here at the Blues, and I'm going to look at a way to bet the Blues because I do think they can get the win over the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm looking for the Blues to start off hot and fast in this game and win the first period. Now, that's kind of dangerous because the Pittsburgh Penguins have won their last 5 first periods off a win. So they continue with momentum, but that was a hard overtime win versus the Ottawa Senators, and I'm looking for the Blues with the momentum they're rolling with, winning their last 10, especially with losing that last game to the Penguins to get up to start. I'll take the Blues first period puck line laying a half a goal. That's coming in at plus 124 for the St. Louis Blues tonight. I'm also going to look at a couple of playmakers in this one. I told you about the playmakers for the Pittsburgh Penguins. We'll do the recap at the end and some of those player props as well, but for the St. Louis Blues, you've got to look at Jake Neighbors still for goal number 20. We're also looking at Robert Thomas for point number 70 and goal number 20. So those would be the playmakers. We got Jake Neighbors, Holloway, Kyrou. You know the playmakers on these teams. They have every ability to get those points on the board. And I do think those goals come quick. Now, we did see that rookie Jimmy Snuggerud come out in the last game, and he actually made that top line. So we'll see how impactful he is for the St. Louis Blues and where he's going to be in the lineup tonight. He looked great in his debut, so I'm tipping my hat to him. I think it's going to be a battle, though, on the ice tonight. Let's move on to the Holloway. Yeah, Dylan Holloway for the point. Rust for 2 for Crosby. 2 for Rust, 2 for Crosby. Oh, I like it. I do think Crosby, you got to look at him to come out so strong. He wants to hit his 30 goal mark at plus 200 for Crosby for the goal. And then Rust for the goal at plus 210. I think both have every ability to cash in this one. I know it's Binghamton, but I do think the Penguins have proven they can score on Binghamton. I could see 3 goals out of them, but I do think St. Louis probably wins this 5-3. I think it's that higher scoring game, especially with the Avs having the Colorado Avalanche on deck. They're off the overtime win versus the Red Wings. That was a scrappy game. 2-1 win versus the Red Wings. The Avs on deck on Saturday, who they beat last Saturday, 2-1 in regulation. And then they've got this road trip. And you look at the Blues, they have such hard games on deck. They got to get the win here versus the Penguins. And then they have to face the Avs, and then they have to face the Jets, and then the Oilers, and then they're back at home versus Utah. It is crazy, that Utah game being the easiest. So they need this win here tonight as well. The LA Kings are up next. The LA Kings facing the Utah Hockey Club. I can find the odds on this one. Just give me a second while I pull them up here on FanDuel. Okay, the LA Kings are a minus 132 favorite. Utah is right now plus 110. So some movement in this line, you guys. It feels kind of trappy that the LA Kings are only minus 132 on the money line. We got a total of 5.5. Minus 115 to the under. The Utah Hockey Club believe they are fighting for the playoffs. I don't believe it. I think it's just a matter of time before they are eliminated. And I could see the Kings extinguishing some of their hopes tonight. So 6 in the Central, 80 points here for the Utah Hockey Club in 75 games. The problem is we start really looking at the Kings. We look at their schedule spot. We look at how they've been out on the road, and I don't want to back them. And at this price, it seems too good to be true. And when lines are too good to be true, there is a reason. Both teams have won their last 2. We saw the Kings get that win over the Jets that I did not expect. They won that 4-1. They are home versus the Oilers on Saturday. So a look ahead to the battle in the Pacific. They are sitting second in the Pacific with 93 points in 74 games. We look at the Edmonton Oilers, we look at the Edmonton Oilers. They're right behind them with 91 points. So the Oilers have 74 games with 91, 74 games with 93 points for the Kings. And then the Kings are 5 points behind Vegas. So this battle here for the standings in the Pacific is nuts. And I think it comes right down to the wire, who finishes in that second spot. So while the Kings need to get this win, I think Utah can be dangerous. Here, we've seen the Utah Hockey Club not as great at home as they have been on the road. Those numbers have kind of evened out a little bit, but 16, 14, and 7. But what really stands out to me is the LA Kings on the road this season. They are 17-21 on the road. They've lost 2 of their last 3 road games. And yes, they did beat Utah the last time they matched up, 5-3, but they still allowed Utah to put up 3 goals. So I do think in front of their home crowd, the home dog in the Utah Hockey Club that wants to play that role of getting the upset is worth a look, especially with Clayton Keller. Do I love it? No, I don't love this game. So that's where I am going to go. I'm going to put a little, I can't say Snugguard at all. His name is baffling me. I've heard it said 10 different ways on TV. So it is so confusing how you say his name. If that's how you say it, then we're going to go with that. But it should be an interesting matchup there. Be careful with this game. The Kings are the better team. The Kings should, and it's like Colorado last night. I said to you guys, it was Colorado versus Chicago. It was Colorado should win this 4-2, but we did see Chicago step up. I wish I had Chicago in the first period. I wish I'd bet something because I stayed off of it. This is another game where I feel like it's a stay off. It's Utah for me or no money in on this one. Let's look at the Anaheim Ducks taking on the Calgary Flames. This is a dangerous game as well. Battle in the Pacific. The Anaheim Ducks have been eliminated. They are sitting six. Well, they haven't been mathematically eliminated. In my mind, they're eliminated. 74 points in 74 games, 6 in the Pacific. I don't think they have any chance. It would take a miracle for them to make the playoffs. If you think they can do it, then all the best and all your bets. I don't even think FanDuel is accepting bets on the Ducks to make the playoffs. Now, Calgary's off the loss to Utah. They can't afford any losses because the St. Louis Blues team is playing with everything they've got out there on the ice. And you got to wonder if they make that wild card spot, if they just go out in that first wild card round there because, they're playing so hot right now. Can they continue that into the playoffs? And that's your concern when you've got teams that are going on these long stretches and have to really battle it out to make the playoffs. It can go one way or another. We have seen over the years for some of these teams, it works. They make that giant push and it continues into the playoffs and they take that momentum versus the teams that in that last week start resting players and really playing with no care. We see that in that first round and they struggle to get out of it. So it'll be interesting to see what the St. Louis Blues are able to do. And it's going to be really cool if Calgary can make the playoffs, but I just don't see it happening. Now, in this matchup tonight versus the Anaheim Ducks, they should be able to get the win. They are off that game to Utah where they took the loss. They've got Vegas on deck on Saturday, and that's my problem here with Calgary. Even if the Blues start taking losses, you look at Calgary, they have Vegas on Saturday, and then Vegas and the Kings are the last 2 games of the season. So 2 teams in the Pacific, but you've got to know Vegas and the LA Kings at that point in their schedule, unless, I think that they could be pretty solidified in their spots where it doesn't matter if Calgary wins or not. So it's going to come down to what those 2 teams are able to do over the next couple of weeks, getting their wins and really solidifying the first and second spot, taking it away from Edmonton or not, how did they play in those last couple. So Calgary here with Vegas on Saturday, the Sharks on Monday, the Ducks on Wednesday, and then home versus the Wild, the Sharks, and then Vegas, and then the Kings. So that is Calgary's schedule looking ahead. 4th in the Pacific, 82 points in 74 games. Lots to think about when you're looking at these teams that are in these races where they're going to be playing. And I'm going to look at the Ducks team total. I'm just going to fade the Ducks team total under 2.5. Could they win this 2-1? Yeah, they absolutely could. Both of these offenses have been pretty anemic in a lot of these games. Calgary only scoring 1 in their last versus Utah. We did see the Ducks put up 4 goals versus the Sharks, able to win that in a shootout in their last game out there 4-3. But I think this is one where goals are hard to come by. The Anaheim Ducks have struggled versus Calgary, only winning 3 of the last 16. So look for Calgary to come out nice and strong. I do like what we've seen for Morgan Frost as of late. When we dig into Morgan Frost's numbers versus the Anaheim Ducks, he's been able to score a goal in 4 of his last 5. So look for Morgan Frost to be impactful. Great pickup here by Calgary at that trade deadline of Morgan Frost. I really like what we've seen out of him. Now, when we're looking at Calgary and how they've done versus the Ducks, I told you the Ducks have lost 3 of the last 16 meetings. Calgary's also won 8 of the last 10 against the Ducks, and 5 of those have been by multiple goals. So if you want to take the puck line, I can't get there with Calgary, but the puck line does make sense, laying 1.5 at plus 156 because they're minus 162 favorite on that money line. So you could look at the puck line. I would rather just take the Ducks team total under 2.5 goals because they do think they struggle. Now, if you think the Ducks are in that spoiler role, sitting here in the Pacific, to pull off the upset, it's plus 134, but it's just not, it's too risky for me with their offense. Rasmus Andersson and Mackenzie Weegar have been playing great for Calgary's defenders. Weegar and Andersson each have 3 power play goals, while Weegar has 12 assists on the power play this season. So look for Calgary if they're able to get out on that power play for both of those players to be able to get their power play points on the board. I'm going to take a shot on both of them tonight. Rasmus Andersson has scored a goal from the blue line. 8 goals he's scored. So we've seen Rasmus Andersson strong at getting those goals as well for a defenseman. So it's been pretty good with you guys. Let's move on. The Winnipeg Jets versus the Vegas Golden Knights. Winnipeg needs to get back in the win column. They're a minus 102 dog rolling into the Vegas Golden Knights fortress. Minus 118 here for Vegas, total 5.5. 5.5 juice to the under at minus 122. And when we're looking at the over in this one, it's coming in at plus 100. I struggle to see this one going over the total. You look at Connor Hellebuck and you look at his numbers versus Vegas, and I do think he can really limit the Vegas Golden Knights' ability to get those goals on the board. Versus Vegas, he has a 915 save percentage in the past 17 meetings. And we do have a defense here in the Winnipeg Jets that absolutely has the ability to lock down. Now, they didn't play strong enough versus the LA Kings, and the LA Kings got that win in the last game 4-1. We're seeing Vegas off a loss to the Oilers. They were only able to put up 2 goals on the Edmonton Oilers, with the Oilers winning that one 3-2. Aiden Hill expected in the net. I don't want to take the full game under the total because I look at the Winnipeg Jets, I look at them off that loss, and I look at their power play abilities. And I think they could push this one to the over, probably with an empty netter. I'm going to take Vegas's team total under 2.5 goals. Vegas's team total under 2.5 goals coming in at plus 130. We're getting plus money. I know it's dangerous, but you look at the injuries here. Thomas Hertl's still out of the lineup for the Vegas Golden Knights. And Pietrangelo, I know I can never pronounce his name right. Alex Pietrangelo. Yeah, I'm not even going to try it again. He is questionable for this game. So we know how impactful both of these players are for the Vegas Golden Knights. And I do think the Winnipeg Jets, sitting first in the Central, they have 106 points, right, in 75 games. 4 points on the Stars, but have played an extra game. So they want to keep this first spot in the Central. They don't want to drop to second in the Central. They need to get back in the win column tonight. It's not all like easy here for them to take that first spot in the Central. They need to get back on track. So first in the Pacific here for the Vegas Golden Knights, they are sitting 5 points ahead of the LA Kings. So if they lose this one tonight, look for Vegas to really come out so strong versus Calgary in the next game because they have lost their last game to the Oilers. So it's going to be a battle out here. First in the Pacific again for the Vegas Golden Knights, 98 points in 74 games, 5 points on the LA Kings. Give me the Jets at plus 100 and the Vegas Golden Knights team total under 2.5 at plus 130. Last but not least, we've got the Edmonton Oilers taking on the San Jose Sharks, and this feels like the game of the night where we're really going to see one team stepping up to play spoilers. So if you don't want to bet the San Jose Sharks, we've got a couple other ways that you can take this game. But the Sharks are a plus 20 or 225 dog at home, minus 280 for the Edmonton Oilers, total of 6.5, minus 115 to the over. I could see both teams coming out and scoring in the first period, and us getting great plus money for that. We're seeing just a terrible scheduling spot here for Edmonton. You guys know, as a handicapper, this weighs so much into my bets, is that scheduling spot. And it doesn't always hit for us. But in a lot of these games, it does prove to make us some money. So it depends on if you want to look at the scheduling spot for Edmonton. Yes, Edmonton sitting third in the Pacific. Right now, third in the Pacific for the Edmonton Oilers. 74 games, 91 points. They need the win here because if the Kings get a win, these two teams, they're 2 points behind the Kings and then 7 points behind Vegas. I don't think they're catching Vegas, but they could catch the Kings. So they've got to get these wins when they can. But Connor McDavid's still out of this lineup. And you look at the San Jose Sharks. They're playing scrappy, eliminated, nothing to lose hockey out there, and they're on their home ice. I do think the Sharks try to keep it tight. Now, if you want to look for a better number, if Edmonton goes up first, coming back in on the Sharks plus 2.5. Right now, you can get the Sharks plus 1.5. And I do think it's a 1 or 2 goal game. It's going to be tight, but plus 1.5 is minus 104. And obviously, money is coming in on the Sharks because I was able to get the Sharks at plus 1.5 earlier at plus money on that puck line. Now, the Sharks plus 1.5 coming in at minus 104, like I said. I think the player props are where you want to look. You want to look at a couple of these players for their points tonight. We mentioned Leon Draisaitl. He's 1 goal away from goal number 400. He gets it tonight. Come on, you guys. Let's take Leon Draisaitl for the goal number 400. The books, Yeah, the books are thinking he gets it as well. It's -115 for his anytime goal tonight. Not what I love. But you look at him for 2+ points, and again, not the value. It's +106, still plus money. 3+ points. Could Leon Draisaitl get 3 points here tonight? Versus Georgiev and the San Jose Sharks. It's coming in at +350. Looking at Georgiev here in his last game out versus the Anaheim Ducks, it's probably the best we've seen him play all season. And yes, he took the loss, but he made 34 safe, I believe it was 34 safe shots on goal in that game versus the Ducks. So we did see Georgiev. He's coming off one of his best games. I do think it goes back down to reality here versus the Edmonton Oilers, even without Connor McDavid. I think those goals are coming. So if you just want to look at both teams to score in a clear over, or the over 1.5 in the first period, you have to lay the juice. And in case the Sharks don't show up to the second, but I would look at Leon Draisaitl for goal number 400. I would look at him for a ladder on those points, the 2+ points, the 3+ points. So maybe a third of the unit on the goal, and I really do believe in that goal. It's goal number 400 for him. But at -115, I don't want to put more than a third of a unit on it. So third on the goal, a third on 2+ points, and a third on 3+ points. And you look at Leon Draisaitl without Connor McDavid. Now, on the season, you guys, he has been fantastic. This is why he is up for the Hart Trophy, right? Like, he's looking like the player who will get it. 105 points, 52 goals, and 53 assists. You guys know I don't love Edmonton, but Leon Draisaitl is so special out of Edmonton, just like Connor McDavid. He's now that 1 goal away from 400. He's played 8 games this season without Connor McDavid, and I think it's a total of 11 games that Connor McDavid hasn't been on the ice this season. 8 of those, Leon Draisaitl has been on the ice, so the other couple, he was injured as well. In those 8 games that he's played without Connor McDavid, he steps up like crazy. 15 points in those 8 games, 8 goals, 7 assists, leading Edmonton to a record without Connor McDavid with Leon Draisaitl of 8-2 in those 8 games. So Edmonton's still able to get the win because of Leon Draisaitl out there on the ice. Now we got a couple of other players here for Edmonton to hit milestones. So if you think Edmonton just rolls away with this, which is what should happen, but the scheduling spot is brutal. You've got Hyman for point number 45 tonight. He's got 27 goals, 17 assists. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins for point number 50, 20 goals, 29 assists. Evan Bouchard sitting here with 13 goals, 47 assists. So he's got 60 points on the season as well. So those would be your playmakers. But like I said, that terrible scheduling spot, they're off a win versus Vegas on Tuesday, 3-2. It's Thursday here. They have the Kings on deck in LA on Saturday. So they have battles of the Pacific on either side of them for those spots. They're sitting third right now. And that's a hard thing to do than taking on an eliminated team here in the Pacific, in the San Jose Sharks, who want to crush the Edmonton Oilers. Now, looking at the puck line for the Sharks, and that's another reason I like this +1.5, but I do think if we see Edmonton go up first, the +2.5 will be live as well. They're 20-16 on the puck line as a dog at home this season. So as a dog, they've been able to cover that puck line 20 times out of 36 opportunities. I do think Toffoli is loading for point number 50, but he's 2 points away. So if you want to look at Tyler Toffoli to get 2 points tonight, it is Calvin Pickard in goal for the Edmonton Oilers. 2+ points for him coming in at plus, I can't remember actually. Let me look at Tyler Toffoli, 2+ points. Man, I had that number in my head and it just disappeared as soon as I said his name, +400. I was thinking +320, but I was like, that doesn't make sense. It's just not enough value for Tyler Toffoli. 2+ points for Tyler Toffoli tonight at +400 for the San Jose Sharks. Like I said, he's got 48 points on the season. He needs 2 points to hit 50 points, and he's 3 goals away from a 30-goal season as well. So Toffoli for the anytime goal, I do think can come into play tonight. He's going to be pushing to hit 30 goals on the season. I really like Tyler Toffoli from his years with Calgary. We know he's played on so many different teams out there. Celebrini still looking to take that Calder Trophy. The rookie out here has 53 points, 21 goals, and 32 assists on the season. So I think the Sharks play a game here, make a game of it versus Edmonton in a bad scheduling spot. But you guys, we are just under an hour here. Let's start this recap and send you guys on your way. After the recap, We'll dig into a couple more players that I'm really liking the best out there on the ice for their points tonight or their goals over other ones. So you guys know already it's going to be Leon Draisaitl here tonight, which if if ever I'm betting on like players for Toronto or Edmonton in any capacity, my whole bias of being a Calgary fan's thrown right out the window there. So those are my two teams that I just don't like backing. But when I'm backing them, there's definitely good reason to be backing those players. So recap time, the Boston Bruins versus the Montreal Canadiens. I do think Montreal is able to get these goals on the board on the Swayman. Give me Montreal's team total over 3.5 goals at plus 104. Very cautious with player props in this one. If you want Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield parlayed together and Lane Hudson is playing elite out there. I would look at those three playmakers here for Montreal, but I do think there's a play here on David Pastrnak. And you've got to look at Pasta for the next couple games here because he's looking to hit 40 goals on the season. He's got 37. He's 3 away. I would look at Pasta for the goal for Boston tonight. And then you could look at Morgan Geekie too. Morgan Geekie has been playing great hockey out there for Boston, but I do think win or lose, Montreal gets 4 goals on the board. The Tampa Bay Lightning and the Ottawa Senators. Give me the Ottawa Senators win or lose to get 3 goals in this game. Now, their team total over 2.5 goals is minus 140, so it's coming up a little bit juicy, but I do think it is the best way to go in this one. You could look at taking the Senators team total over 2.5, parlaying with a guy for his points or for his goal tonight. If they allow you the points, I would do the points. If they do allow the goal. So Batherson has been able to score against the Lightning in 3 of his last 4. We're going to see if Brady Tkachuk is hitting the ice. Listed day-to-day, some of you throwing out that Brady Tkachuk is listed out versus RotoWire. We'll see what happens. But Andre Vasilevsky in the last game versus the Senators only allowed 1 goal. But in the 4 games prior, he allowed 3 or more. So I am expecting Ottawa to be able to, who are fighting for their wild card lives, to be able to get 3 goals on the board, win or lose for them. Now, the Colorado Avalanche versus the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think this game starts off hot and fast. Both teams to score in the first period. You're going to get that at plus 146. I love going that way. I do think Columbus can put at least 3 goals on the board here at home. This offense has been great. I love Monahan back in the lineup. Over 2.5 goals, so is so highly juiced, minus 160. We can alt it to over 3.5 goals for great plus money. We know Colorado are just looking like absolute studs out on the ice. Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, so many great playmakers you can look here at. I think it's a higher scoring game. So the player props I do think are in play in this one. I think Colorado will answer back to Columbus. So I could see Colorado winning this 5-4 or Columbus winning this 4-3. I think it's an absolute war out there on the ice and one that has the opportunity of going to overtime. So let me just pull up the overtime odds here between these two teams because I do like the overtime bet and I can't remember what it was sitting at. Overtime at plus 340. So the overtime bet at plus 340 for the Colorado Avalanche and the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think it's a 1-goal game. The Nashville Predators and the Dallas Stars. I'm going to look at the Predators just to put a goal on the board in the first period. It doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter what Dallas does, but as long as we get the Predators scoring a goal in the first period, it's coming in at minus 110. I'll then look at Ryan O'Reilly for his point tonight at plus 102. You could also look at his assist at plus 190. He's been able to get an assist versus the Dallas Stars in Dallas in 9 of the last 11 meetings here. So he has had that strength. I would rather take the point than the assist because, I don't want to sit here with him looking at a goal and not an assist on the board and us missing out on that point. I don't want to touch anything else other than the Preds to score in the first period. And we're seeing Dallas here off a road trip. I can't see the upset coming, but I can't justify the price on the Dallas Stars and find a way to bet it. This is going to get me any value. The Pittsburgh Penguins and the St. Louis Blues. Look for the Blues to come out so hard in this one. Their last loss was back on March 13th to the Pittsburgh Penguins when the Penguins won 5-3. Look for the St. Louis Blues to come out hot out of the gate, be able to put up those goals. I will take them first period puck line laying a half goal at plus 124. I'm then going to look at Robert Thomas again for a goal number 20. One of these days, he's got to get it, right? You guys, on point number 70. I think Holloway comes out strong, Kyrou, and Shen is another player you can look at. He's 2 points away from hitting 50 points on the season. Jake Neighbors is looking for goal number 20 as well. And when we look at the Penguins, Sidney Crosby is 3 goals away from 30. Sidney Crosby for the goal tonight at plus 200. Rust here for goal tonight at plus 210. His points juicy at minus 154. So if you want to take Sid for a point and Rust for a point, I like it. Rust has scored a goal in 3 of the last 4 versus the Blues. The LA Kings versus the Utah Hockey Club. I do think Utah is probably live and barking here at home. I don't like the scheduling spot and the road situation here for the LA Kings. They're coming off the win versus the Jets on Tuesday. That was a 2-1 win. They're home on Saturday versus the Oilers. We know this team has struggled out there on the road, and that not the wild card race, but the Pacific race is nuts for first, second, and third spot between Vegas, the Kings, and the Edmonton Oilers. So I do think the Kings look past Utah tonight. It's scary to bet Utah, though. It's like betting Chicago last night, right? So this is probably a stay off, but if I had to bet, it's Utah. The Anaheim Ducks and the Calgary Flames again, battle in the Pacific, a team that not mathematically eliminated, but will look to play spoiler on Calgary's hopes of making the playoffs. They've got 82 points of 74, 74 and 74 for the Ducks. I'm just going to take the Ducks team total under 2.5. We know Dustin Wolf has been so solid between the pipes at home. And both of these offenses just haven't been scoring a lot. The Ducks have struggled versus Calgary. Morgan Frost, I'm looking for him to step up. He has great numbers versus the Ducks, majority of, all of them versus the Flyers. But I do think scoring in 4 of the last 5, or for the Flyers, not versus Flyers. I do think scoring in 4 of the last 5 versus the Ducks, we are going to see Morgan Frost step up. And then I'd look at Mackenzie Weegar and Rasmus Anderson again for those power play points. I'm really liking what we're seeing out of those 2 defensive guys on the power play. So that is where I'm going to look in that game. The Winnipeg Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights. Give me the Jets to get the win straight up on the money line at plus 100. Vegas's team total, probably my favorite bet. Under 2.5 goals for the Vegas Golden Knights coming in at plus 130. That plus money had me, and then Connor Hellebuck has me. He's got a 915 save percentage in the past 17 meetings versus the Vegas Golden Knights, and I look for this defense to really lock down, especially off the loss to the LA Kings. Then the Edmonton Oilers versus the San Jose Sharks, you guys. I think the Sharks are barking. Give me the Sharks plus 1.5 at minus 110 now. Actually, minus 104 now on that money line. I'm looking for the Sharks to keep it tight. If Edmonton goes up first, I will be coming back in on the Sharks at plus 2.5. I've got a half unit on the plus 1.5. The 2016 20 and 16 on that puck line this season as a home underdog. We're going to look at Leon Draisaitl for goal number 400 tonight. Toffoli, I think he can get a couple points on the board as the Sharks battle this one out. Again, a bad scheduling spot here for the Edmonton Oilers with Vegas. They're coming off that win, beating them 3-2 on Tuesday, and then at the Kings on Saturday. So much emotion on both sides of this battle here with the San Jose Sharks. So I do like the Sharks to keep it tight in this one and really push them. Let's look at those player points. Of course, we can look at those player points for sure. Yeah, and the Blues looking to tie that record with 11. It's going to be great to see. I hope they continue to make this run. Even as a Calgary fan that wants to see Calgary in the playoffs, I love what we're seeing out of the St. Louis Blues team. And they will definitely be the underdog team that I will be cheering for to make some waves in the playoffs. But let's get into those player props, recap that, you guys. So looking at the player props here, who I'm like really feeling should come out nice and strong. I'm looking at the Edmonton Oilers, Leon Draisaitl, to come out strong. Without Connor McDavid on the ice, Leon Draisaitl has been a force to reckon with. He's played 8 games without Connor McDavid on the ice this season, 15 points, 8 goals, and 7 assists in those 8 games. Look for Leon Draisaitl for goal number 400 tonight. That's coming in at minus 115. 2+ points out of Leon Draisaitl coming in at plus 106, 3+ points at plus 350. I'll put a third of a unit on each of those. I'm then going to look at the other side here for Tyler Toffoli for his points tonight. You can look at Tyler Toffoli for 2+ points. That's coming in at plus 400. He has 48 points, 27 goals, 21 assists on the season. I do think Toffoli, he really steps up versus the Edmonton Oilers. He played in Calgary. He has that grudge against the Edmonton Oilers as well. So look at Tyler Toffoli for his points tonight. I do think Celebrini comes out strong as well. Then I'm going to skip a whole bunch of these games. I'm going to look at Sidney Crosby for goal number 200. And I did break down every single game where I'm looking at those players, but these are my favorite ones. So Sidney Crosby for goal number 200 tonight. I would look at Robert Thomas. He needs to get goal 20 tonight. I really do see it coming for the St. Louis Blues. So, and then Ryan O'Reilly, I think gets that point for the Predators at plus 102. It is so worth the value there. Over the assist is only plus 190, and I do think the point comes via assist, but I think that's the best way to take it. And then give me Pasternak for a goal tonight for the Boston Bruins, even though I think Montreal is getting the win. Pasta looking to finish this season nice and strong. Joel Hofer is confirmed for the St. Louis Blues. It doesn't change what I'm thinking here for the St. Louis Blues without Binghamton in goal. I do think Joel Hofer can come out nice and strong, but it gives us a better chance of getting Sidney Crosby for that goal. And I do think this game starts off so hot between these two. So you guys, all the best in all of your bets tonight out there on the ice. Thank you for hanging out here for over the last hour. I appreciate each and every one of you. Those of you watching the recap, I do give out so much more information during the whole show. So if you're looking to dive into the slate further, I try to follow straight down on FanDuel how those games are going. So if you're looking to skip around for a little bit more breakdown, that's definitely the way that you're going to find those games. But you guys, all the best in all your bets. We'll be back here noon Eastern tomorrow. And I'm sure it is a short slate on deck tomorrow. I actually haven't even looked. I can't believe tomorrow is Friday already. Yeah, we got 3 games on deck tomorrow. Carolina versus Detroit, Chicago versus the Washington Capitals. Oh, and we're going to look at Ovi and the Minnesota Wild versus the New York Islanders. We can't not look at Ovechkin here. It's now minus 480 for Ovechkin to break the record. We can look at a couple of things with Ovi. He's 3 goals away. This is where it gets interesting for Ovechkin. If you think Ovechkin is going to break the record and get a Hattie tomorrow on the Chicago Blackhawks, the odds for him to break the record versus Chicago is plus 3,900. He'd have to get the hat trick in tomorrow's game. So if you think that, it almost might be better to look at him for the 1, the 2, or the hat trick. I don't know. That's a hard one. Plus 3,900. I'm not sure if he can get it tomorrow. We'll have to look more into that tomorrow when it comes about. But the Columbus Blue Jackets, he's on track to beat. That's the odds on favorite. Plus 175 for him to hit Columbus. And then we're looking at that. That was the first team he ever scored on. If you think it takes all the way to the last game of the season, that's versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. And Columbus, they have 2 games versus Columbus. So it's going to be a battle. I don't think it comes versus the Carolina Hurricanes or the New York Islanders. So for me, it's the Columbus Blue Jackets at plus 175, the Pittsburgh Penguins at plus 900. And if you think the Hattie is coming versus the Chicago Blackhawks at plus 3,900 versus Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks, you could see Ovi really step up. It's going to be interesting, you guys. But I'll see you back here tomorrow. We'll break more of that down tomorrow as we go into that game versus Chicago. And I'll have some official bets for you. Because like I told you, first time looking at those today with those movements. So you guys, all the best. We'll talk to you then. Hit some anytime goal scorers as well as save shots on goal for some of these goalies.